Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Catherine Ross and I head up the sales and marketing and support teams here at Dynamics Consultants. And I've probably spoken to a lot of you at one time or another, either in a sales capacity or wearing my account manager hat. So a very warm welcome to the Dynamics Changes event. Well, we got here eventually. We had a live event booked for April, which we've had to move to October. And then with this latest lockdown and the reality that we still cannot put everybody in a room together, we're replacing the live event with this virtual one. And we intend to do virtual ones for the quarterly online for the foreseeable future. Today we are mixing live and pre-recorded videos to make sure that we have no issues with connectivity. Please feel free to put comments or questions into the chat box all through the sessions. We will monitor these and we will be taking time to answer these questions at the end of each session. So without further ado, it's over to Tom Jenkins, RMD, for an update from Dynamics Consultants. Tom.
Hello, welcome to our Dynamics Changes event. And this year has certainly seen its fair share of change. In our quarterly newsletter that went out in September, I touched on how Dynamics Consultants has changed over the last 12 months, including the introduction of Stuart as our commercial manager. The Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central solution is not just the evolution of Dynamics NAV, but an important cornerstone in the Microsoft Business Solutions landscape. Much of the work that Microsoft has done on the product over the last few years is to move the product from being a very capable, customizable standalone business solution towards being part of a business solution suite. This work started as long ago as 2009, when Microsoft implemented the three-tier architecture, which also introduced web services. This was the foundation for the web client and data connections to NAV for such things as Power BI and Microsoft Flow. And in so doing has extended the product with the use of PowerSuite, Microsoft 365, and increasingly artificial intelligence or AI technologies. It is for this reason that we see the commercial manager as a pivotal role for Dynamics Consultants as we focus on improving our offering to our customers to become a leader in AI and to reach our vision of being widely regarded as the UK's best provider of business software solutions based around Business Central. In recent years, NAV introduced events to enable developers to move customizations outside of the core code. This led the way to extensions and a new programming language developed in Visual Studio, important building blocks to enable customizations in the regularly upgraded cloud-based SaaS version of Business Central, and sees the demise of the classic client, which has really only been maintained since 2013 as a development environment. This work, apart from showing Microsoft's ongoing commitment to the solution, also means that for those customers environment, this or later also benefit from significantly cheaper upgrades of their on-premise solution going forwards, something that we ourselves have taken advantage of as we upgraded up from Business Central 16 to version 17 earlier this month. The commercial manager role is not the only change at Dynamics Consultants over the last year or two. As an organisation, we have invested heavily in ourselves and have employed the services of a management consultant to help us form our new management structure, review our processes, and build us into a company ready for the next period of growth. That, combined with a level of training in the new product during lockdown, the upgrade of our internal system, the implementation of Dynamics 365 sales, and our revised product strategy will see us well placed to better service your needs over the coming years. At the time of writing our last newsletter, we had recently come out of lockdown 1, and the business climate was starting to improve. We were seeing new business inquiries coming back, as well as an increase in confidence amongst the customer base. It is too early to tell what effect lockdown 2 will have, but I suspect it will cause a ripple of uncertainty along with the consequences that will bring. However, I believe there will be better understanding this time round, and we'll also see many businesses investing for the future. As per the last newsletter, due to our investment in Office 365, Teams and up-to-date Business Central, working from home was very straightforward for us and was pretty much a case of finding a comfortable spot to set up at home. That certainly was not the case for all of our customers. And for those who are planning to ride this second lockdown out, I urge you to spend the time to look at how you can improve remote access for your workforce and we can certainly help advise on this. During the second lockdown, we will again be closing the office. However, it will still be business as usual at DC, given the fact that the office has had very little use over the last 8 months, and our workforce has expressed a desire for more home working going forwards. We have put on hold our plans to move to a new office and instead made some investment in making the current office a safer environment with screens, sanitisers and a reduced capacity. Once restrictions have been relaxed, the office will of course reopen, but we feel it is important to be mindful of individual concerns and will ensure we work with you all to abide by your own requirements as and when the needs arise. We understand that your fortunes during this time have been mixed, and we will work with you on an individual case-by-case basis to help you through the coming months. Please do not be shy about asking our team for help or guidance. I'm sure we're all aware that Brexit is looming, and we'll be sending out a short questionnaire to ascertain to what degree the change is likely to affect you. These questionnaires are a useful tool to ascertain requirements, and your cooperation with completing these is appreciated. Finally, we thank you, our customers, for your continued partnership and loyalty through this time of change. It is important to us to know that what we are doing is right. As a result, we have implemented the thumbs on all our support closure emails, and these will be coming soon to non-support related activities as well. Additionally, our customer satisfaction survey and customer management calls are your opportunities to give us feedback. But if you have any issues or suggestions, then please feel free to contact us at any time. I hope you find the rest of this webinar useful, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tom, for that DC update. For those of you who want to put questions, apparently there's a question mark on your screen. If you click on that, then you can enter your questions into the chat box. So next we have Stuart Hardman. Many of you may know Stuart from his years as a consultant, and as you've just heard, Stuart is now our commercial manager. He's going to take you through a few changes in NAV, or as it's now called, Business Central. Over to you, Stuart.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stuart Hardman, and I'm sure that some of you will know me from working with you at some point over the past 10 years that I've been with Dynamics Consultants. I'm here today to talk to you about the move from NAV to Business Central, what it is and what it will mean for you going forwards. So first of all, we're going to start with a little bit about me. I've worked with Navision, NAV or Business Central since 2000. Initially, there were 2 years at an end user, and then I spent the last 18 years at various partners since Catherine brought me into the channel back in 2002. I've implemented numerous systems for customers all around the world, and I've upgraded a variety of customers as well. So I've upgraded customers from different versions, different countries, multiple companies merging together. You name the scenario, I've covered it. I've worked with all the versions since version 2 to version 17, which is the latest version, which was released in the last couple of weeks. And on the slide at the moment, you'll see the migration and the changes that the user interface has gone through over that sort of period of time. Obviously, looking at me and that picture of a rather more younger looking me up there as well, you see I've gone through some changes myself. So without further ado, let's move into it. I hope everybody has got their lockdown webinar buzzword bingo sheets ready, and you may have already ticked off some of the phrases.
So why did Microsoft make the decision to move on-premise NAV to SaaS Business Central? There are a few reasons. The first is scalability. When you're in the cloud, you have the capability of using all the power of the data center that Microsoft provide, whereas if you're running an on-premise version, you're restricted by the capacity of your server and potentially have to upgrade and replace that periodically. Accessibility. With Business Central in the cloud, and in theory with any web version, you can access it from anywhere in the world on any platform. You don't need to have an installed client. You can be sitting on the beach in the Bahamas in the middle of lockdown and still access it on your iPhone. Integration. Microsoft are increasingly developing and pushing their Power Platform and other solutions, and being in the cloud allows easier integration to Business Central from those software. And a lower total cost of ownership. Without having to buy and maintain your own servers, you can save a vast amount of cost. Moving to the Business Central, it's the same licensing cost, whether you're running it in the cloud or on-prem if you're paying on a monthly basis. So there is a cost saving to be made by having Business Central running in the cloud. And it's also consistent costs. So you know that on a month-by-month basis, how much you'll be paying for the licenses that you've got with Business Central. So with the move from on-prem to a SaaS environment, there were three key challenges facing Microsoft. I'm sure there are many more, but these are the major ones. The first one is hosting. So if you're moving to a cloud environment, how are you going to be hosting your solution? The second one is the client and user interface. When it was on-prem, previously there were installed versions of clients. That doesn't work if you want to run a true SaaS environment. And the third is the development environment and the processes associated with development. The first one is hosting. That was an easy fix for Microsoft. They've got something called Microsoft Azure, which you might have heard of, or Azure, as the Americans like to call it. So a little bit of information about Azure. It is the most secure online hosting solution in the world, and Microsoft spend approximately $1 billion per annum on security with Microsoft Azure. There are 90 plus compliance offerings, including 50 that are specific to regions and countries around the world. So for instance, after Brexit, if you have a particular requirement for meeting EU legislation, you could have one data center sitting within the EU, and you could have one data center sitting within the UK, which potentially might have different compliance levels going forwards. Azure is so stable and so competitive, it's used by Microsoft's own competitors. So SAP hosts their own ERP solution on the Microsoft Azure platform. Increasingly in this day and age, green, renewable, carbon neutral are some keywords that people like to pay attention to. So the Microsoft Azure data centers are all carbon neutral, and they're also currently, at the last count, 44% powered by renewable energy sources. So the move to the web, it's been a bit of a stop-start process for Microsoft. They initially attempted it back with version 2013. And on the screen here, you can see one of the earlier versions. They tried to recreate the existing Windows client in a browser-based environment. However, they found that this had major limitations and the approach wouldn't work for future development they wanted to go through and put into the product. So about 3 or 4 years ago, they completely rebuilt the UI from the ground up. So it's been designed from scratch specifically to work in a browser. This has given them greater flexibility and control over what they're doing. You'll notice there's less icons, it's more text-based now, which means it's not having to cache a lot of information in the background, which gives it a lower overhead within the browser. The dev environment has also changed majorly. Previously, the environment was a bespoke environment built by Navision about 20 or 25 years ago that you carried out the development in, and it was in a special code called cow code, which was very specific and only used by Navision. They've now migrated, so all development is now carried out in Visual Studio. This is a standard application from Microsoft that's used for multiple applications all around the world. Developers use it every day, which means it's very familiar. The removal of the cow code has meant they've brought in something called AL code, which is a slightly different version of it. It's similar in structure and syntax, but it's more recognizable to people that are coming new to the channel. So when we're bringing in developers, there are now quicker training times because the structure of the code is more familiar to them, and because the environment they're working in, Visual Studio, is more familiar to them. It means it's a quicker process to ramp them up to actually start developing in the system. So this brings us on to events and extensions. You might have heard these phrases from people that have been working with you or read them on the web at some point. I'm not going to be too technical about these, so if I am, I apologize, but to give you an idea about what they are and why they are used. That supports true SaaS. So SaaS being in the cloud, you not having access to the back end, for instance. It allows us to easily upgrade solutions. When we use events and extensions, it's very quick and easy to migrate functionality that's been developed from one system to another, which also means it's repeatable. So we can develop solutions and very easily deploy them. So what are events? First of all, we have to go back to the past. Previously in Navision and NAV, you could amend the core code in the system. We had access to all the same code that Microsoft had access to. So we could go into posting code units, tables, pages, and restructure those, add, remove code, do whatever we wanted to it. However, the end result of that was, whilst it meant we had the ability to do pretty much anything we wanted in the system, it was very unwieldy from an upgrade perspective. We had to plow through thousands or potentially even millions of lines of code, pick out those lines of code that have been changed, and then work out where to move them to in the new upgraded versions. There were some tools to do this, but it could be a very manual, arduous process to make sure it actually been carried out correctly. And this wasn't practical for regular updates. So in the past, people have upgraded the system maybe every 5 years or so. So the future is the core code is more or less protected in the system. In theory, for an on-premise installation of Business Central, we can change the base application, but it's not massively recommended. We can keep away from that. Ideally, we will do. Instead, Microsoft built in something called events throughout the system. And these events they're like hooks. So they have hooks all through the code in the system that you can then hook into from outside. So they will publish data out from these events. You can then subscribe to pick up the data and then push it back into the system. And what are extensions? Extensions are exactly that. They're an extension to the base application, the base data and user interface of Business Central. An extension can contain events, bespoke events, and also bespoke logic, and can link in to events that are in the core base app of Business Central. Once you've built these extensions, they are packaged as an app, which is effectively plug and play. So you can list them on AppSource, you can pass them out to a customer, and they can either run a script if they're on-prem, or from the interface itself with the SaaS environment, actually upload and install these applications themselves. Very simple, very easy. There's no need to go to a back-end development environment anymore to install bespoke functionality. So there's a little diagram I put together here to try and explain the principle of an extension. So on the left here in the green, we've got the base application. And if you think about a very, very simple process, you might enter an order, you'd post the document, and that will then create some entries in the system. You can build an extension, which is this blue section over here, which has a page extension in it. So that page extension might be some additional fields that you see on the order, but when presented to the user, it all appears as a single order page. Then when you go through the posting process, we can use event subscriptions to manipulate the data through that process. And then any additional data we want to record, we can post into an entry table extension. So this is an extension to the base entry table. But when a user looks at it, it appears as a single table to the end user. So what does this mean for you? If we were talking about the SaaS environment, there's no server hardware requirements. You can do away with that server sitting in the corner, or your bespoke server room with all its air conditioning units and fancy fire suppression. You can move to monthly updates. So Microsoft now have a system whereby they release biannual waves. So in April and October of each year, they release wave 1 and release wave 2. Every month in between that, they also release monthly updates. And I'll explain a little bit more about the life cycle in a moment. There is now, in the latest version, version 17, controlled activation of these new features. So rather than you just being forced to take on the new features as and when they're released, there is a page you can go to and you can activate it at your own pace. So if you know that a piece of functionality might impact on the process in the business, you can choose to delay it for a short period of time before activating it. Eventually, these new pieces of functionality will be enforced in the system, but it gives you, I think, it's a 90-day period for you to manage how you release it into your business. If you're an on-prem customer, you are benefiting already from these SaaS structural changes. So the move to AL and Visual Studio and events and extensions means that going forward, there'll be quicker upgrades, even if you remain on-premise. You have ability to access the AppSource. So Microsoft AppSource is a shop, if you like, you can go to and buy additional apps and download and install them into your environment. There is a migration part of the cloud. So Microsoft have given us the ability to set up a hybrid solution. This allows us to link your on-prem solution to a cloud solution and migrate the data across into it. Microsoft are constantly improving and working on this process. So going forwards, I think that will be a path that will be taken up by more and more people. You also have the support cycle change, which I'm about to talk about in the next slide. So this is a move from the old 5 and 10 year support life cycle. So Microsoft have now introduced the modern lifecycle policy. What this effectively means is after every release wave, you get 6 months of full support. So you get new features released, you get bugs and regulatory fixes released in that 6-month period, and that's with the monthly updates. They then provide an additional 12-month support, which includes bugs and regulatory fixes that are required. After that 12-month period, that version is effectively off of support. So that's come into effect from version 15, which was the October release in 2019. So going forward, there's effectively 18 months support. This sounds scary, particularly bear in mind that historically it was a 5-year support cycle. But the idea is that with the new approach to development and with the extensions, it's a much quicker and easier process to upgrade. Which then brings us on to a new offering which Dynamics Consultants will be bringing out in the near future. We are going to be offering, and these details are still to be confirmed, a on-prem subscription upgrade. So the cost will be based on the development complexity within your system, the number of companies and the volumes of data that you have. Then for a fixed monthly fee, we'll give you the option to upgrade once a year. You don't have to take that option if you don't want to, but you pay on a monthly basis and you have that ability to upgrade once a year. The upgrade will be triggered by you. So you need to discuss with us and say, when is the best time for us to upgrade your system? So we can schedule this for quieter times. Obviously, we have a number of customers in different industries and different businesses that are busier at different times of the year. This enables us and yourselves to better plan upgrades. So we can schedule these in on a regular basis and ensure that you are kept up to date, even with an on-prem solution, with the latest version of the software. So details of this will be coming out in the next couple of months. So listen out for those. If you've got any queries or questions with them, please talk to myself or Catherine or Tom Jenkins. So this brings me to the end. If anyone has any questions, we will take those now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stuart. That was a great trip down memory lane, and thank you for bringing us up to date. So we've had a couple of questions come in. There's one about license changes. So in the latest versions of Business Central, Microsoft changed from concurrent users to named users. And before you all have heart failure, they gave you 2 times additional users. So if you had 10 users on your license, you would end up with 30 users. These are completely free of charge. There is no cost implications for you as as customers, provided you're on the Microsoft enhancement plan. Obviously, we can confirm all of those details for you. So if anybody's got any questions, then obviously ping us an email and we can go into specific details around your license if needs be. OK, so no more questions at the moment. We have Stuart again. It's a busy day for him. He's going to take us through some of the current integration with the rest of the Microsoft 365 offering. Over to you, Stuart.
There's been functionality in Business Central and formerly NAV for a number of years to export data out to Excel. You've been able to refresh the data in Excel and pull the latest set of data through from Business Central into it. But in recent versions, they've also given you the ability to update data in Excel and push it back from Excel into Business Central. So in Kronos, there's been some sad news this morning. Our salesperson, Peter Sado, has sadly left the corporation. So I need to go through and update all my customers with the new salesperson for them. Now, I only have 5, so granted it's not going to take me too long to go through and do this, but if I had 5,000 customers, it would take quite a period of time to update these. So I'm going to take the customer list and edit it in Excel. This downloads the spreadsheet, which when I open it, has an association back into Business Central and will pull the data through from Business Central. So I enable the editing, it builds the connection and then pulls the data out. And then in here, I'll have a list of all the customers appear with all their relevant data. Now, there are obviously checks here. It won't let you just change it to whatever you want to. So if I try and change the balance on a customer to be £1 million or £10 million, for instance, and push that back in, because that is a protected data table, it won't let me push that back in. So I can't push back in a new balance. It says, no, can't do that, and it overwrites it back with the old value. Likewise, if I try and enter data which doesn't exist, so salesperson AC, I know doesn't exist, and publish that back, it will give me an error message saying there were problems when publishing it back. I can go to the details if I want. But what I want to do is update this with the new salesperson code for Mary Dempsey. So she's now become the salesperson for all these customers. So I update that one and drag it down. It's Excel, it's nice and easily. And I can publish that data back. And that is now updated. So if I now go back into Business Central and refresh this page, you'll see the salesperson code is updated with Mary Dempsey's salesperson code. For my next demonstration, I'd like to show the integration that's out of the box now with Business Central and Outlook. So if you imagine a scenario where you open your email and you receive one. Oh, this nice chap here would like to request some items. We'll see after. He wants an Athens desk, 3 Amsterdam lamps, and 2 Berlin guest chairs. Now, typically you'd have to open Business Central separately, go through, create a quote, add the items to the quote manually. This new functionality allows you from within your Outlook to open up a pane into Business Central, and Business Central automatically try and suggest the items that you want to add to a document. So clicking on the Actions button up here and then go to Business Central, the first thing we can look at is Contact Insights. This allows us to see a 360-degree view of this particular contact. Now, straight away, it's recognised this contact doesn't exist in our Business Central installation. So I get the option to add it as a contact. So I can add myself, sorry, Stuart Hardman, as a person and associate them with a company within Business Central. So I'm going to click into here and I'm going to the Adatum Corporation. So I click on that, click the tick, and then that person is then added as a new contact against that particular company in the system. At this point, it then allows me to see various pieces of information related to that particular company. So, historical spend, which I can drill down on and see what those particular sales orders were made up of. Credit limit information, dimensions associated with them, any sort of number of different pieces of information. So what I also want to do, though, is from this email, I would like to create a new document. I'm going to create a sales quote because this is what Stuart has requested. So I click on the sales quote option. The first thing it does is it connects up to Business Central. It then goes and looks at the email, goes through it and says, okay, what has he requested in this email that we need to add to a quote? He's picked up Athens desk, Amsterdam lamp, and Berlin guest chair, all very successfully. It's also, because it's in guest, it's picked up an additional line there, which I don't want. So I can select that one, delete the line, go ahead and delete. And then I can say, right, now I want to add all these lines to my quote. Click on the tick. It will go off and create me a quote. So here we can see these are the items: Athens desk, Amsterdam lamp, and Berlin guest chair. It's also picked up the quantity because I put the quantity in the lines of the email. It knows how many I want of each of those. So brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted. From here, I can then say, I would like to email this. So I can send it by email. And this has all been done in Business Central, but through Outlook. So this then creates me a draft. So I can see here, I've got an email here, sales quote to myself with high level details. There's a total there and an attached PDF. I click on it, you can then see the details. This is the 3 items that I requested from the email. And if I'm happy with that, I can then send that email off to the customer. A few minutes later, I receive an email back from Stuart with the quote acceptance in. He's so massively impressed, he wants to accept it immediately. And this is another nice feature. Outlook and Business Central work together and have context awareness within the system. So you can see where he's emailed quote 1004, it's picked it up and recognizes what it is he's referring to. So if I click on it, it immediately gives me a pop-out view back into Business Central. So I can see the quote that's been sent through to Stuart and the items on it, and he said he wants to accept it. Fantastic. So the next step is from here, from this pop-out window in Outlook, I can convert this quote into an order. Do you want to convert it? Yes, I do. And off it goes, and I've now got a new quote, a new order rather, in Business Central, 101005. It's giving me a warning there about the inventory being lower, so I can then pass that on to my supply chain team to make sure they've got the appropriate levels of items in stock. So once that's been converted, just so we can go and have a look and see what's happening in the background. If I flip across to Business Central, then from here I can go to sales orders, or alternatively we can click on the sales order queue down here. This then takes me in to see the list of sales orders, and you should see hopefully at the end here 101005, the Adatum Corporation. If I open that, and then see the order that's been quoted through Outlook and accepted and converted to an order through Outlook. I think that's a really nice piece of functionality. As I mentioned earlier, Microsoft are starting to get very involved with artificial intelligence. They have set up and allow access to a number of demonstration AI models, which I've set up one of these already and linked my database to. This is the sales and inventory forecast setup. It allows you to set up various basic parameters, such as how far into the future you want to look, how far in the past you want to look, and how you want to group your sales and inventory forecast. So this is going to plan out up to 12 months in advance, and it'll do it on a monthly ongoing basis. If I go to the item list, you'll see against each item, there is now a forecast. So here we have the forecast. This is the inventory forecast. If I change it to show the sales forecast, you can then see what it's forecasting the sales of this particular item to be. So this is its prediction based on the previous 24 months of data it's got. I can see from looking at the inventory forecast that it's predicting I'm going to be out of stock by next month. So I can also, from this particular fact box, create a purchase order. When I create a purchase order, it would also prompt me and say that I've run out of stock from other items this vendor usually supplies. It gives me the option to add them to the document. If I click on that, the additional items are added to the document with an appropriate quantity to cover the next 3 months of requirements within the system. So again, it's a very nice, simple implementation that gives you a visibility of what you can start doing with the power of AI. A brand new feature in Business Central, released in version 17 just a couple of weeks ago, is the ability to integrate it with Teams. The process is very simple. Within the App Store in Teams, you need to search for the Business Central app. Select it and click on Open. And then it will tell you the next time you open it, you'll need to log in. So, okay, got that. Fantastic. Thank you very much. We now go to Business Central. Now, if you're maybe in a conversation with somebody, you want to have a look at something that you're working on, you can take the link for Business Central out of the browser, and in Teams, simply paste it into a conversation. At this point, you need to sign in. Once you've signed in, it will pop up a preview card for that page from Business Central. So I'll submit that into my chat. And here we have the card from Business Central appearing in Teams. And then various options. So you can see some basic information. You click on details and it pops up a bit more information within Teams itself. As you can see here. So it allows the user then to look at further information regarding the item. Or if you want full access to it, you can use the pop-out functionality, which will open up a new page and take you actually into Business Central itself. It's only in preview at the moment, but it will undoubtedly have new functionality added and expand and become more usable in the future.
Thank you, Stuart. That Teams element was shown at Directions EMEA last week, which is a Microsoft partner conference that we attend every year. It was a bit different this year because it was all virtual. So we have a few questions come in. So is on-prem still an option going forward, or is this being phased out? So as I said, we were at the Directions partner conference last week. There is absolutely nothing to say that on-prem is being phased out. It is still very much there, alive and working. The one thing I would say is that some of the new features like AI integration could start to be an issue on an on-prem version, but it's still there and the functionality is still the same, and we are on BC 17 on-prem, so yeah, definitely still there. Another question, what about BREP if they're cutting the support time? So the whole reasoning with BREP is that it gives you the right to the new version of your license free of charge. That's what you're paying your BREP for, as well as many other things. The whole idea is that with the extensions, the upgrade process will be significantly quicker and therefore cheaper, allowing you to upgrade much more regularly without the disruption that it takes at the moment. And that way you can take advantage of the new features that are coming along every month, every 6 months with the 2 big waves. Okay. There's another question. Is it possible to push updates to item card from Excel sales and purchase prices as well? So what we're showing you is obviously on the latest current version, which is Business Central version 17. So obviously in that case, yes, there is. I happen to know that Bex is on a slightly older version, and there is something called Rapid Start that does in essence exactly the same thing. So for the current versions, you could just use Excel pushing it forwards and backwards. Where you're on perhaps a slightly older version, there is something called Rapid Start that basically does the same thing. I'm happy to discuss that with you offline, Bex. Okay. The Teams integration is fantastic. Yeah, really impressive, isn't it? So don't think we've got any more questions coming in at the moment. So you will have heard a few buzzwords like Power Platform, Power Automate, AI. So Stuart is going to demystify a few of these and show you the future of tech. Again, put the questions in the chat box and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Stuart.
Hello, and welcome to Doing More, the future of the technology. In this session, we'll be looking at the Power Platform. So to start with, what is the Power Platform? Modern businesses run on data, and users interact with data every day, whether it's entering timesheets or getting guidance on existing processes or analysing data to make decisions. In our driven world, users can be assisted in gaining insights from and interacting with data whilst automating those menial responsibilities that are more of a burden than a job task. Power Platform enables your business to build solutions that unite technology to help everyone, from the managing director to the frontline workers. So now we're going to go through and I'm going to talk to you about each of these individual elements of the Power Platform and what they are and how they can be used. So we'll start with Power BI, which is probably more familiar to you. Power BI is a business analytics service that delivers insights for analysing data. It can share those insights through data visualizations, which make up reports and dashboards to enable fast and informed decisions. Power BI can scale across an organisation and has built-in governance and security, allowing businesses to focus on using data more than managing it. You can consider Power BI as the analysis and insights leg of the Power Platform. It takes business data and allows you to display it in ways that make the most sense to users. A Power BI dashboard could replace a meeting to report on company metrics such as sales data or progress against goals or employee performance. Once you've generated Power BI reports, these can also be embedded back into Business Central to give users real-life visualizations of data from their system. Power Apps provides a rapid low-code/no-code development environment for building custom apps for business needs. It has services and connectors and a scalable data service and app platform called the Common Data Service to allow simple integration and interaction with existing data. Power Apps enable the creation of web and mobile applications that can run on all devices and platforms. People use apps for every area of their lives, and businesses should be no exception. Most out-of-the-box solutions do not meet exact business needs or integrate well with other business programs. Power Apps eases users into app development with a simple interface so that every business user or pro developer can build custom apps. There are a number of example templates that can be installed and modified to get you started on the journey. Power Automate lets users create automated workflows between applications and services. The solution was previously known as Flow. It helps automate repetitive business processes such as communication, data collection, and decision approvals. Don't waste important productive hours on drafting the same email for a weekly update or walking approvals through. It's not only for individual users, Power Automate also allows for the creation of enterprise-grade process automation. Power Automate's simple interface allows every level of user to automate work tasks from beginners to seasoned developers. Power Virtual Agents is a fairly new addition to the Power Platform. It enables anyone to create powerful chatbots using a guided, no-code graphical interface without the need for data scientists or developers. It minimizes the IT effort required to deploy and maintain a custom solution by empowering subject matter experts to build and maintain their own conversational solutions. Power Virtual Agents is part of the platform, therefore integrates into existing systems with streamlined out-of-the-box integration using Power Automate and its hundreds of connectors. Users can enable chatbots to perform an action by simply calling a Power Automate flow. Flows help users to automate activities such as redirect to help videos or call back-end systems, for instance, to create a return order. The data connectors allow you to connect to apps, data, and other devices in the cloud. Think of connectors as the bridge across which information and commands travel. There are more than 300 connectors for the Power Platform, enabling all of your data and actions to connect as one. Examples of popular connectors include Salesforce, Twitter, Vimeo, Office 365, Dropbox, YouTube, Facebook, Google, Business Central. At the bottom of this, you'll see icons for every single connector which is currently available. The AI Builder lets users and developers add AI capability to the workflows and Power Apps they create and use. AI Builder is a turnkey solution that allows you to easily add intelligence to your workflows and apps and predict outcomes to help improve business performance whilst writing code. I have a friend that's won numerous awards in his use of AI in the medical arena, and he always works by the mantra, the most powerful AIs are the boring ones. Remove repetition and use the brain for something better. The AI Builder ties in with that by providing a number of pre-packed models that you can adapt and train, such as the ability to automatically classify text, identify what's important within your data, process documents using OCR functionality, identify and count objects using images, and make predictions based on historical data within your systems. The Common Data Service is a scalable data service and app platform that lets users securely store and manage the data from multiple sources and integrate that data in their business applications using a common data model to ensure ease and consistency to users. The Common Data Service is the common currency that enables the components of Power Platform to work together. It's the foundation that enables the consolidation, display, and manipulation of data. Furthermore, it's the foundation on which Business Central connects to other Dynamics products, such as Dynamics 365, which is formerly CRM. So, the call to action for all of you on the call today. Everything I've shown you in this particular video are toolkits. They need ideas and problems to solve. Without those, they're nothing. So think of it like this. If you go in something without a plan or without a design, you could end up with something hideous like that. A little bit of forethought, a little bit of planning, and you can end up with something beautiful and functional. I built that. So what we're offering is preferential rates for the first few solutions that we engage with customers and build. What we ask for in return, though, is that we're allowed to produce case studies, blogs, demos, and use those solutions in future webinars such as this one that we put together. So if any of you have any particular problems or areas within the business that you think will be well suited to any of these tools that I've shown you in this session, please talk to either your consultant or myself or Catherine or Tom Jenkins, and we will be able to discuss with you what possibilities there are. So has anyone got any questions?
Thank you, Stuart. You can relax now. So we've had a question come in about CRM. So CRM still exists inside the standard Dynamics NAV Business Central product, but obviously there is integration to the Dynamics 365, what was CRM product called Sales Now, but there's an additional licensing cost for that one. No other questions at the moment, and Stuart really did make that guitar. Okay, so just a quick word on a few other things DC related from me now. So just to make you aware of some more DC offerings, we can help you with your transition to Microsoft 365, previously Office 365. We can sell you new licenses and we can assist you in moving your existing Outlook and Skype to Microsoft 365 and Teams. Teams has been a great boon in these times of lockdown, enabling us all to work from home and communicate as if we were sat side by side. Azure, if you're thinking of moving to the cloud, then please talk to us. We have quite a lot of experience in Azure, setting up private clouds and all sorts of other clever stuff. SQL Health Check, I'm going to cover that in a moment. On the e-commerce side, we have 3 different options that we can talk to you about. We have our web shop, so our e-commerce essentials, which is a light touch standalone web shop with options to integrate B2B and B2B with NAV and Business Central. We have a custom website tool, which is called Umbraco, allows us to develop different websites, not just web shops, but whole websites, depending on what your requirements are. And then we are also in partnership with Sana Commerce. Sana Commerce is a more heavy-duty web shop and CMS system, content management system, and it seamlessly integrates with your Microsoft Dynamics NAV or Business Central. It leverages real-time ERP data and business logic and is hosted in Azure. So 2 other partnerships that we have, D365 HR, formerly called Talent, is a great facility around the HR and talent element for things like self-service. Great benefits for those boring admin tasks, you know, updating personal information, booking holidays, etc. Huge tools around onboarding so that you get a consistent feel for onboarding new people. There's also a plugin for LinkedIn recruitment solution as well. So talk to us if you want more information about that. D365 Sales, good old CRM as we used to know it, all the great functionality that we know and love from a great fully integrated CRM system, already integrated and has been for many years with Dynamics NAV and Business Central. There is also a very powerful marketing tool called D365 Marketing. So if you want more information with that, we can help you. And last but not least, a new partnership that we've set up this year is with Zetadocs Expenses. It handles mileage, company credit cards, varying rules and levels of approvals, and again is fully integrated with Dynamics 365 Business Central or NAV, depending on what you've got. We've got a session coming up from the expenses guy immediately after this section. So around the partnership, it's a big theme and a big message from Dynamics Consultants. As you can hear, we partner with other experts in their fields, but also we want to partner with you as our customers. And so we've come up with the customer rewards scheme. It's up and running now. You may well have seen some numbers on the bottom of your annual enhancement plan, those of you who have just had recent renewals. You will earn rewards on your annual enhancement plan, ad hoc spends on services that you have during the course of the year, and on your invoice payments if they're paid to terms. We will also give you some additional points if you do reference calls for us or reference visits, as well as any referrals. You can earn extra points for those types of services also. You see your points on your annual enhancement renewal statement, as I've said, and you can redeem them against these other areas of services that we can offer you. So, for example, you can redeem them against scheduled training. It's much quicker and more efficient for new people to get up to speed and ensure they hear the right information and make them feel valued as part of your organisation as to having some proper training from your IT supplier. Database health checks. We do some high-level checks to ensure there are no potential issues. For example, direct posting flags set to yes on control accounts saves you hours of wasted time on reconciliations. SQL Server health checks. So SQL is part of your infrastructure, but we can run some tests on the database to check that everything is running at its optimum. User shadowing, a very popular one. We sit with users and review what they're doing and build their confidence and ensure that they're aware of best processes and also any improvements that we may well have seen to you as a business. So on the support thumbs, we have you will have seen, any of you who've logged support calls and had a closure email, that we now have a red and a green thumb so that we can get some feedback from you regarding how we've done on the calls. There are also feedbacks in the bottom of our email signatures as well from time to time, and this allows us to ensure that we are handling everything correctly for you. The support portal is in beta test now, and this is being rolled out in the not too distant future, depending on how the beta goes. And you can still log your calls with the help desk in the normal way, so you can still speak to a human being. You can also log them via email, support@d-c.co.uk, but now you will have a support portal as a third option. This is going to have some additional facilities in there. There will be some training videos. There will also be an FAQ section, and you will also be able to see your previous historical calls. So if you have the same issue come up a couple of weeks later, you'll be able to go onto the portal and find out what the resolution was. Any of you who we have requested or you have submitted a recent backup, you will find that we are doing a database health check on that as well, and you'll get a report coming back to let you know of any issues that we may have identified on that as we go. And last but not least, ABC is Accelerated Business Central. We've templated a setup for Business Central. It's really aimed at small businesses that have really outgrown the likes of Sage Line 50 and the Zeros, or they're just running on spreadsheets because they're a startup type organization. And we have got a templated solution. It's fast, it's low cost, and it's a fully licensed version of Business Central, so you're not losing any functionality. So if you've got any colleagues or friends or other businesses that you know in your acquaintance books, then please feel free to recommend us. Again, there's more information there. So so I don't know if there is any questions on that. If there is, then I'll pick them up at the end of the session. But now we're going to go on to the guys from Zetadocs Expenses. So they're going to show us how the expense apps work.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining this session on how to digitize your expense management. My name is Martin Nekev. I'm a Senior Account Manager here at Equisys, and I'm joined today by Alistair Brooks, our Product Specialist here. Our company, Equisys, are the creators of Zetadocs Expenses, an expense management software designed specifically for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. We are delighted to have been invited by our partner, Dynamics Consultants, to present this session for you, during which we'll provide a demonstration of our solution and let you know about an exclusive offer available only to you as attendees. So no doubt you'll have your own reasons for considering a new expense management solution, whether it be to reduce the time spent and frustration of compiling expense reports each month, or inputting details of expenses into your Business Central system. We won't go into all the possible reasons for now, but we wanted to provide you with an overview of the value of Zetadocs Expenses provides for your finance team, for your sales team, for your field teams, and for approving managers. Firstly, it moves your expense management online. As soon as an employee incurs an expense, whether it be cash or mileage, they enter it into the Zetadocs Expenses app, along with a photo of the receipt, and then hit submit. This helps submitters to get paid quicker and reduces the hours spent each month end compiling a written report and trawling through paper receipts. It also offers approval on the go. Managers can approve expense claims on their phone or browser, allowing them to sign off expense reports while on the go in the office or working from home. Managers can also receive prompts when an employee's expense report is awaiting approval, which further facilitates rapid reimbursement whether in office or at home. Finance teams have visibility of each stage of an expense report. This helps identify where any possible errors occur and allows finance teams to chase appropriate people to ensure the monthly pay run is met on time. Finance teams can then export approved expense reports to Business Central. No rekeying is required as expenses are recorded as purchase invoices within vendor, GL dimension and tax codes already set. This saves time and reduces errors for finance teams. As this is all in the cloud with phone, tablet and browser apps, each stage is easy to do when working from home as when in the office. So now that I've outlined some of the functionality and some of the value offered, I'm going to pass you over to Alistair, who will show you all of this and more. So over to you, Alistair.
Thanks, Martin. So we'll just start things off with a demonstration. So the three personas that we're going to be working with today is David, who is a sales rep. He's out on the road and he hates the traditional process of storing paper receipts until the end of the month and then submitting them along with a paper form. When he does claim, he wants his money back urgently. I'll show you how you can add multiple cash and mileage expenses immediately using our Zetadocs Expenses app. His manager, Kevin, travels a lot, so he doesn't always have access to expense claims that land on his desk. He hates getting back to the office to find overdue approvals, and then going through the expenses is not one of his favorite jobs in the first place. I'll show you how Kevin can easily verify and approve all expense claims wherever he is. April is in the finance team and feels stressed by constantly having to chase overdue expense claims and trawling through receipts, forms, and spreadsheets. She's looking for a process that takes much less time and allows her to get on with her core work. I'll demonstrate how she can check, verify, and approve the expense claims that will be coming in regularly thanks to Zetadocs Expenses. I'll now jump into my demo environment to show you it in action.
From David's home screen, we can create a new expense report, or submit reports, and also view a bit of a summary about our expenses for the month. Going in to create a new expense, we just click on the new expense and then payment. Zetadocs will automatically populate today's date, but we can backdate this very easily just by clicking on the date field. And now we just need to pop in a bit of a description. So dinner with clients. Next up, we need to select the relevant vendor. This is the place that you've incurred the expense, not the vendor you've got set up within Business Central. As I type in the vendor that I've been to, Zetadocs will actually suggest places I've previously been or previously used as a vendor for quick and easy submission. We can now select the appropriate payment method, so whether or not it's a cash expense or a credit card expense. Selecting cash, we can now move on to selecting the appropriate currency. Zetadocs does support multi-currencies, so if your submitters are claiming in euros or pounds or US dollars, Zetadocs fully supports it. Let's put in a quick expense amount. Zetadocs Expenses does also fully support spending policies, so an example of which we can see here. Zetadocs is warning us that this particular spending violates some form of spending policy we've got internally. We do also have hard limits, so rather than this orange color, a red color will be displayed instead. The one we've got displayed here is just an example of a soft limit or a warning. Putting in the appropriate expense type, we can scroll up a little bit. Zetadocs allows you to itemize expenses to break them down into its respective parts quick and easily just by checking the button and breaking it down below. We can also put in any relevant notes that we may have for this particular expense claim. So for instance, we could have dinner with big client. And that's just provides the person who's approving the expense a little bit of context as to why we may be submitting this expense claim. Scrolling on a bit further, we can select the appropriate VAT rate, so whether or not it's no VAT or 20%. And then if we want to calculate out the VAT that we can reclaim for this particular expense, just tap the button and Zetadocs will calculate the VAT that you can reclaim for this expense automatically. Scrolling down further, we can apply any relevant dimensions or departments to this particular expense claim, and Zetadocs also supports jobs, tasks, and job task lines for these expenses as well. So if you want to use any of those, Zetadocs fully supports them. Now all we need to do is just add a receipt. To do so, just click the Add Receipt button, select Camera, and we can take a photo of the receipt that we have for this expense claim. Clicking Use Photo, Zetadocs will then upload the receipt to the expense. Clicking Save, we can now go on to create a new mileage expense. To do that, click New Expense, select Mileage, and then just like with the payment expense, Zetadocs will pre-populate today's date, allow us to put in a quick description, so trip to event. We can select the appropriate vehicle, so whether it's a personal car for business mileage or a company car for business mileage or a fuel card, Zetadocs supports all of them. And now we just need to put in a start point. So our office is at Equisys, which Zetadocs has suggested because it's somewhere we've used before, or the destination. So as I type in our destination, in order to streamline the submission process, Zetadocs remembers places we've previously been and suggests them as destinations. So we can just select that from one of the suggested list. If we want to calculate a return journey, just click return journey and Zetadocs will calculate that automatically for you in this distance box here. Looking down, we can see the route that Google has suggested and calculated out for us to and from our destination. Scrolling down further, we can see the appropriate mileage rate, the appropriate expense amount that this user is going to be reimbursed for, and the relevant VAT rate that we as the organization can reclaim for this particular mileage claim. Scrolling down further, we can add in any respective notes or put in any respective dimensions, jobs, or tasks against this particular mileage claim. Clicking Save, we've now created the 2 expenses that we want to submit for approval. To submit those for approval, all we need to do is select New Report, select Expense Report, and Zetadocs will bring you through to a new draft report, which will have the current calendar month selected as the period start and end dates. We can now need to pop in a little bit of a description. So for instance, here we can say autumn events November 2020, and that just provides a little bit of context as to why we may be submitting these particular expenses. To add those expenses onto this report, we just need to click the plus button at the top right hand corner of the screen, and that will bring up all the expenses that we have created for this particular period. Adding them to the expense report, we can see them down here at the very bottom. We can see that we've got both a mileage expense and a payment expense on the same expense report, so you can submit all sorts of expenses on the same report without the need to send a separate report for each. Clicking Submit, once we're happy, Zetadocs will select the default approver and processor that has been set up for this particular user. So Zetadocs has noticed that Kevin is David's manager, so he's been selected as the first approver, and April has been selected as the default approver because she's the finance manager in charge of David. If we need to add an additional approver, we just tap the extra approver button, and that will allow us to select an additional approver if we so wish. Clicking Submit, Zetadocs will then move this expense report on to our manager, Kevin, who will receive an email or a push notification on his mobile device. So let's move over to Kevin now and see how he sees things. We can see here that Zetadocs has sent us through an email notification, and we can see here the description that we did, who has assigned this report to us, and a bit of a task history from the email. Zetadocs will also send us a push notification via the app if we're using that on our mobile device. Clicking View Approval, Zetadocs will log us into the expenses portal using our work email. So Zetadocs Expenses fully integrates with your single sign-on system, so you don't have to remember all sorts of different passwords, you just need to remember one. From here, we can approve the expense report as a whole, delegate it to a different manager, or reject the expense report as a whole. Or if we want to go into each line level, we can click on each expense and view a side-by-side comparison of the receipt that's been provided as well as the expense claim. From here, we can approve each individual expense on a line level, or edit the expense, or reject individual lines on the expense report without rejecting the entire report. Clicking Approve will move it onto the next item on the list, or if it's the last item, will then take us back to the report home screen. Going to the mileage expense here, we can see a side-by-side comparison of the mileage claim as well as the route that Google has calculated for us. Clicking Approve, we can now see that both these expenses have been approved and have been changed to the status approved, so we can move on to the next process and approve the expense report as a whole. Clicking Approve, Zetadocs will then bring us up an action box, allowing us to put in a comment if we need to provide any additional context to any of these expenses, but we can leave it blank if we wish. Clicking Approve, that is our job done as Kevin, as the approver. We've made sure that each of those expenses were valid business expenses, and we've approved them because they both were. The expense report has now moved onto our processor, April, who is monitoring the portal like an absolute hawk because she knows that this is month end. We can see here that she's now been assigned a new task, just like Kevin has been. So clicking on the task and then clicking on the task from the task list, Zetadocs will take you through to the relevant expense report. We can see a full task history of this particular expense report, and just like Kevin, can approve the report as a whole, delegate or reject the report as a whole, or go line by line to check each individual expense there to make sure it's all above board and all valid business expenses. She can also edit or reject these expenses as well. So if she wants to change any of the relevant GL codes or dimensions or what have you, she can do so before exporting to Business Central. Once April is happy, or once the processor is happy, all she needs to do to export the report to Business Central is click the Approve button, add the option of putting in an approval comment. So for instance here, we can put in all good to export. And once we click Approve, Zetadocs will communicate with Business Central and raise an unposted purchase invoice for us automatically without the need to rekey anything. Clicking refresh here, we can see the expense report that we've just created and gone through the approval process has been generated here. Clicking into the report, we can see that the export was successful and the purchase invoice number has been generated here. So copying that across to our Business Central system, if we search that purchase invoice number, we can see the unposted purchase invoice has been raised automatically for us without the need for any rekeying. And we can see that has been raised here. That's the submission process from start to finish. So from creation, submission, approval, and processing through to export to Business Central. But that's not all you get with Zetadocs Expenses. You also get full integration with Power BI or Microsoft Excel for reporting purposes. So popping into one of our reports here, we can see the default template that we provide free of charge. So on a home view, we can see a bit of a breakdown about the expenditure as a whole. We can also break it down onto department. So comparing department upon department, you can have a monthly breakdown to compare month on month for different financial years, or you can break it down onto submitter in order to utilize it for fraud detection. That is part of the product offering for Zetadocs Expenses. So from creation, submission, through to approval and export to Business Central, as well as the reporting aspect of Zetadocs Expenses, you get all of it when utilizing Zetadocs Expenses Essentials. If you have any more questions, or want to see an in-person demonstration, please feel free to contact Dynamics Consultants, and they'll be sure to get you in touch. I'll now pass you on to Martin to finish off the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. Now, of course, we're going to tell you how great our software is. So to provide some balance, have a look at what one of our customers has had to say about working with us. As you can see, Pete Hughes, the CFO at a Zetadocs Expenses customer called PX Tech, gave the software a 10 out of 10 rating, which is not too bad, I'm sure you'll agree. It's now time to reveal details of the offer we mentioned earlier. As a thank you for attending these sessions, we are delighted to offer you 50% off the cost of implementing the Essentials edition of Zetadocs Expenses. This offer is only available for attendees of this webinar, so it really is an exclusive deal. To take advantage of it, you'll need to place your order with Dynamics Consultants before the 21st of December. You won't need to implement it right away, but the order does need to be in before Christmas. This is a helpful cost saving and one we are happy to offer in light of the financial challenges brought on over the last few months. Have a chat with your account manager at Dynamics Consultants to find out more. So now I'm going to wrap up this part of the webinar and pass back to the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks to Martin and Alistair for that. It looks so much easier than trying to find that rogue paper receipt weeks after you purchased your sandwich. Please remember to talk to us if this application is of interest to you. So we've got a couple of questions in the inbox. Somebody was asking where the starting place for the Power App tools are. Stuart's published some details in there, but obviously remember our offer. If you want to take on this project, we're looking for to work with some companies on some various development projects. So there's some details in the chat box with a link to the Microsoft site. The licensing is the challenge on this one, so it probably needs a bit more of a conversation. We've got another question. We're starting to grow out of our zero finance system is Business Central an option or is it too big? So that's one of the reasons that we've created our ABC, Accelerated Business Central. So we've done a templated version with all of the setup, chart of accounts and everything ready for you. And we've done the templates to bring in the data. So from that point of view, you can start small, but you're not getting a cut down or an abbreviated version. You're just getting the templated version that we've designed. However, the license is still there for you to grow into. So I would say no, it's not too big, but what it does mean is you won't have to change systems in 3 or 4 years' time because you won't grow out of Business Central. So if you've got any more questions, then please put them into the chat box now. Hopefully you've enjoyed our session today. Doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in at the moment. So if there's no more questions, it just remains for me to thank you for attending or watching this on catch up. Don't forget the 2 offers that we've raised as part of today's session. We will be sending out a feedback form. Please fill them in, otherwise we don't get to know what you want to cover in the next session, which we'll be organising for February 2021. You've also had an email from Jesse, so if there are any questions or you require any more information, then please email Jesse and he'll pass the details on to the right person, or obviously email Stuart, myself or Tom directly if you know our email addresses. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.